Well, thanks again for joining us for another episode of Triple Play. Please remember to
like and subscribe.
Yes, and share.
Yes.
And make some comments. We like those things too. And
back up away from your mic a little bit. Just all right. Is that better?
I don't know. It's all,
that's better.
A little different again. Trying to better.
Yeah. The other one was too
loud. Okay.
That's good. That's good.
So, but
I ruined the intro for you. We can keep going. Where were we at in the intro?
We were
a special intro.
Like and subscribe, comment, share.
Do it all.
And
then our sponsors.
Yeah, we got to do our sponsors.
What do we got?
We got Andy McCall with Resource One at 636-458-1798. And Chris Sisk with CS Design. Give those guys a call at 573-436-3717. And also be sure to be checking out our merch. And for those that want to help sponsor, we have sponsorships available and memberships available. Members are getting episodes a week or so early, sometimes up to 2 weeks early. I mean, when we're doing these, so you're able to check that out and get some signed stuff along the way too. So with all that said,
who do we really have for us? Who we got today?
All right.
Again, because this is your second time.
Yes, your first time there were technical problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we also have a first timer.
I'm a first timer, yes.
So we got Ray and Missy Mehringer. So, and they are awesome. Excuse me, I'm going to move that a little bit. Trying to get you a little technical thing here on this episode. But no, they're awesome folks. We've known them for a long time at church and very passionate about families and marriages. So I am glad that we have you guys here today. So thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, we're glad to be here.
Yeah.
And I like a Scot over here next. He's a rather not bad for a Dutch, you know? Yeah.
A Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Not Dutch.
He's a fine lad, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Well, tell us a little bit about your testimonies. How did you guys come to know Christ, and then how did you guys meet each other?
My dad was the Air Force, so we moved around a lot. And in my high school years, I was playing football, and I had a lot of good friends in the sports. And my dad got orders to move from San Antonio to Burkburnett,
Wichita
Falls. Yeah. And that was a killer for me because, again, you and Scott would know, but you really have good friends when you're playing sports together and all that kind of stuff. And I moved from, like I said, from San Antonio to Wichita Falls, and all of a sudden I don't really know people. And a lot of the guys on the other team, the teams that I met, they didn't really totally bring me in. It was a junior year in high school. So I was feeling really lonely, but there was one guy in particular that was really nice, and he asked me if I would like to come to his church. They were having it was like a retreat or something.
Okay.
And I was, my family was religion. You know, there's a difference between a relationship with Christ and religions, you know. As Episcopal, Methodist, Catholic, it's all about religion. But this was a good Bible church. And when I heard the pastor preaching and the person speaking, I was just stunned by the gospel and to know Christ, to live for Christ and everything else. And that point in time, I asked the Lord, please forgive me. I want to know you and be with you more. So I would say my junior year in high school is when I really made the joy of being a believer and trusting the Lord.
This is quite, honestly, how many episodes have we done in a row where nothing's gone wrong?
10?
10, at least.
Yeah.
And then we got all
That's
this.
a lot.
We apologize for this.
We didn't even know anything was up.
Okay.
Just getting a little feedback. That's all through the headset. That's all right. We appreciate your testimony. So how about you, Missy? How did you come to know Christ?
So I was also raised in what people would call a religious home. We went to church every week. It was more works righteousness based religion. So a lot of pressure on me to just excel and to be a good student, to be a good daughter. I was always striving to try to earn God's favor. And in high school, God really started drawing me to himself. I had not heard the gospel, though, yet, but I wanted a relationship with him. So I went on to Texas Tech University, where I would go on later to meet Ray. And God in his kindness just surrounded me with godly young ladies in my sorority and in my dorm. And it was just a friendship kind of evangelism. They just lived out Christ. They loved his word. They really witnessed to me. And my sophomore year, they invited me to attend a Billy Graham crusade, which was coming through West Texas, 1975. And I went, and that was the first time I heard the simplicity of the gospel, that I was a sinner, that I could have a relationship with God through forgiveness of sins because of what Christ had done for me. So that night, September 25th, 1975, I best I knew how, received Christ as my Lord and Savior. And it turns out around that time that Ray had been praying to meet a Christian young lady for the purpose one day of marrying her. And so God was faithful to answer those prayers. So that was almost 50 years ago. And I'm just so thankful for people that lived out the gospel before me. And also even for the Billy Graham crusade, just to hear the gospel for the very first time was just such a wonderful thing.
That's awesome. Yeah. Billy Graham, he was amazing at sharing the gospel. So
That was part of my testimony. I grew up in the church and had crazy dreams growing up, and I went to a Billy Graham concert when I was 14, and it was like all the puzzle pieces came together when I saw Asians, blacks, whites, like literally everybody. I was looking. We were at the very top, and I could see everybody. And I could see everybody's faces, and I could see the whole world there for Jesus. And I was like, okay, now I get it.
What city was
Jesus
that
is it.
crusade in that you went to?
It was here.
It was in St. Louis. Okay. Wow.
yeah, and the one in Pittsburgh was the one that your dad took Dave Cost, and that's how he came to know Christ, and that's how then he would work for me, and we were starting to talk, and that's how I got to meet you.
That's right.
Yeah,
Wow.
long time ago.
That's great.
You were young, and you were young and back then.
Yeah, I don't remember anybody when I was young.
I remember you taking swings with your brother, and I would talk to whoever wasn't taking swings, and then as soon as you guys were done, for lack of a better word, we'd ditch and then go to the game. So, and I was Dave's tag along. So
Well, that's one of the great things about Scripture. They teach us about the sovereignty of God, and when you look back and you think that you were at that point, at that time in my life, or later on, I'd meet Missy at Texas Tech, and there was at least 25,000 students there. But I applied for, my dad, since he was Air Force, I had a segue into the Air Force ROTC, and I really felt strong about having my own, pay my way through college. Well, Missy was interested because of her background on a drill team. They had an organization called Angel Flight. And between Angel Flight and the Air Force ROTC, that's how I met Missy. And I'm still amazed today. With 25,000 students there, and I met my Missy. So.
And neither of us really knew where we wanted to go to college, but we both had sisters there. So we thought, well, let's just go to Texas Tech. We've got some sisters there. And I guess you were a freshman. I was a sophomore when we first met, probably.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit older than Ray by 11 months. So very thankful he brought us together on such a large campus.
yeah, just so that you feel better, my wife's older than me by like 5 months.
Oh, good. That makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, there you go.
It never bothers me.
I know. We always tease her. I go, because her birthday's coming up, and I always tease her that she'll be a little bit older than me now.
Oh, that's great.
Audrey's a year older than me too.
Oh, good.
There you go. See, it's common.
It's common.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Boys, we just don't mature as quick, and so we got to find a woman slightly older than us.
Or the other way around. Yeah. I matured faster than the girls my age, and I want.
Yeah, what are the likelihood of that?
Oh, Scott.
Well, here's one of the neat things about Ray and I, our relationship, which is so wonderful. Because of the Air Force connection, we were just friends for like 2 years before that friendship moved on into dating and more of an interest in each other. And so we really knew each other really well. And we first started realizing our relationship was changing when we got involved in some, it was called Fleet Feet. We did charitable fundraising for the handicapped. And we did that together as partners. And that was my senior year, your junior year. And it's just nice when your best friend, you already know each other so well before the relationship, changes and moves into something more serious. So that was our story.
Fleet Feet, did they do any dancing or no?
No, but we ran laps around the Jones Stadium at Texas Tech, and we would just stop cars and ask for money. And I don't know why they called it that, but
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No. So that's how you guys met. And then Ray has this career where he gets involved in the military. and then somehow that leads to having kids, right?
Yeah, and because of my background, my faith, I got involved in what was called OCF, which is Officers Christian Fellowship, and they were men in the military that were believers. So I loved the Bible study with them, and I loved meeting with them, and it really encouraged me. But it also led to the point where I did took an early retirement because I really believed duty on our country. But I was watching. This is back in.
When you retired?
Yeah.
78.
So in 77,
No.
79, wasn't it?
No.
98.
98. Okay.
So I was going to say 78 because,
Houston.
well, and the reason why I know that is you have that great picture of you and Reagan. So I knew Reagan had to be around through the 80s. So
So it was 98, and talking with the fellow officers, we all agreed the same thing. We saw our nation turning its back on the Lord, and we wanted to find ways that we could be more involved, and that led us to go ultimately to the Master's Seminary out in California and study there.
Yeah, just backtracking a little bit. The Lord's blessed us with 4 children. By His grace, they're all walking with the Lord and serving Him, and 3 of our 4 children were premature. Our son Tad, if you've ever met him, he's quite tall and a funny guy, but he was 2.5 months early at 3.5 pounds.
oh wow,
So the Lord was really kind to protect our premature babies. They've all grown, as I've said, to know the Lord and to serve Him. So that was a big part of our life, moving around the Air Force, having these babies. They would stay in the hospital until they were big enough to come home. And He was very faithful to care for each one.
yeah,
That's cool.
that is cool.
Tad, tall and funny.
Yes.
Do you like him the most? I'm just joking.
He is a good guy.
Yeah,
He was just in town.
He was, yeah.
Did you meet him, Scott?
I might have.
Okay.
I might have.
He's our
Yeah.
comedian.
He looks like a taller Matt.
Yes.
Look at Matt, and he's a little bit taller.
He's
face.
taller than Matt.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, and he just, I mean, he just tells you when Missy and now we just turned over our marriage. We've been married now for 44 years, and so he is a funny guy, and he'll say, "Farty fire." I said, "Tad, it's not a fart, it's a 44." And so he looks.
He's trying to talk like a Missourian.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have to edit that.
But he.
That's all right. No, there's no edits. This is all fun.
Yeah, that's Tad for you. I mean, he's always joking around like that. That's kind of way he's always doing. He's been doing that since he was little. So
Yeah, they're fun. We're very thankful.
and they'll always laugh. And it was fun that the Matt and Tad, those as brothers, they were always close. And Matt was a little bit more serious, but Tad was always joking, and they were always laughing. And it's just fun to watch them grow up and be close as brothers like that. Even today, they're still.
And most important, our kids have given us 15 grandchildren. So we're super busy in their lives, and they're so much fun.
Yes.
Well, I know a few of them were excited about you being on here finally. They kept asking, when is Ray going to be? When's Grandpa going to be on your podcast? I said, we'll get him on here. So, especially after the first one kind of didn't have the audio, they were really disappointed about that. I was like, me too. It was a really good podcast, but we'll get him back and we'll get you back. Yeah.
Oh, they have our names for us. I'm Papa Popsicle, and Marmy is
Parmesan cheese.
Parmesan
We
cheese.
have weird names in our family.
I know, so they'll see us, Papa Popsicle. No, it's just Papa. No, Papa Popsicle. And I mean, they're just.
That's awesome.
What can I say? Yeah.
Yeah. My dad's Pops, and the other one's Pop, and they inevitably call him Poops.
There you go.
Okay, I'm glad to be I'd rather be a popsicle. I'm glad to be a popsicle. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Scott. Thanks, Scott.
So,
Okay.
and then you obviously graduate from there, and you ran this, or helped with the administration of the seminary for many years until you came to St. Louis. Where did that kind of move? And somewhere in there, you really started getting very passionate about family and marriages. Where did that kind of happen? I know you were already passionate a little bit before then, but it really seemed to.
The story was I was busy as the dean of students of the seminary. I would often meet people or counsel people. A couple came in, and we were talking with them, and they had their son, little Joey, outside, maybe 6 or 7. And as we're visiting, I guess my secretary, Christine, stepped out for something. Well, he came in the room, and when he came in the room, he was crying. And he was crying, and he was saying, "Mommy and Daddy are always yelling at each other and everything else, and I don't think I ever have a..." I mean, he was just going on. And then they got up, and they kind of helped him. And Christine said, "Well, let's go get a little cookie," and I'm trying to help him out. And then we closed the door, and then they are just sitting in their chair like they've been revealed. And I think at that point in time, it really became heavy for me to think, how can we help marriages so that not only for their marriages, but for their children. And that was reminded, it wasn't just me, Missy, but that was reminded. I don't know if it was a conversation I had with Dr. MacArthur, John MacArthur, or whatever, but he was reminding us that that's pretty much the big three from Satan's evil. He attacks the word, he attacks marriages, and he attacks families. And he was rocking through Genesis, and he showed us, and it's hard to believe, it's there. But when Adam sins, then he and God confronts him, and Adam, which is blame shifting in marriages and situations. Adam says to God, well, it's that woman you gave me. It's like, wow, that you would blame God. Why God didn't just say, you're gone, Adam. But it just shows you that's what you see in relationships. They're blaming each other, they're separating, and that's on the escalation. So that kind of led us in this passion to do the Sweethearts for a Lifetime. I don't know how many couples we've done it for, maybe 50.
Yeah, and one thing Ray had a real passion of is most couples, when they get married, will have some kind of premarital counseling, which is wonderful. But then they get married and that's it. And we had this strong conviction that for newly married couples, that first year, they really need to be meeting for some marriage discipleship. And so at the seminary, we would meet with couples in their first year of marriage. We'd have about 5 couples at a time that would come. By the way, the book Sweethearts for a Lifetime is by Wayne and Carol Mack. We cannot recommend it enough.
Okay.
So at the seminary, we were meeting with newly married couples the first year of marriage, going through this book together. And what was fun about coming to St. Louis at church, people wanted to do this study, but it was for all ages. So the very first year, we did a sweetheart study here in Wildwood. We had a couple in their 70s who came that just wanted to refresh their marriage. And we had some newly married couples and couples at that busy season where you guys are raising your kids, trying to balance work and home and church. So here it's been more all ages it's opened up to. So that's been really fun to meet with people of different ages too.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
We started off with this reminder from them from the beginning, as a husband, that you will lead and love and provide based on Ephesians 5, 1 Corinthians 11, and 1 Timothy. As a wife, I will help and I will manage and love, again, based on Genesis 2, 1 Timothy 5, and Titus 2. And again, it tells us in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, 2 are better than one. And so we just started doing that and helping that and encouraging. And a lot of these men would go on to be pastors, and they would try to, again, do that as well, do this Sweethearts for a Lifetime study, which is critical.
Yeah. And what makes this book stand out versus other books in marriage? I mean, you said you really, really like it and highly recommend. Can't recommend it enough. What makes it different than so many others out there? I mean, there's a lot of marriage books.
I think what really makes it back is after every chapter, there will be questions. So, if you're finishing a particular chapter, you'll go back this and you'll talk about why should the fact that sexual immorality is running rampant in our society not come as a surprise to people who know their Bible? So, I mean, you'll have multiple questions. I'm going with Missy right now to prepare for our study we have 2 other couples we're meeting with, and it's 50 questions to ask your wife. So we're going through these questions with her and everything else. So it's a reminder. We don't know who had said it, but it wasn't us. But the bottom line is either you're on the throne or Christ is on the throne. So when you're dealing with your spouse, if you're unkind and ungracious, what you say, how you say it, what you do, what you believe, you're on the throne. Or if you die to yourself and you're loving, you're kind, you're gracious, for men, you lead by example, your wife serves, and you work together as a team, then Christ is on the throne.
Amen.
Yeah, and this author, Wayne Mack, is a ACBC biblical counselor. And so he really weaves in a lot of scripture with these application questions. I think that's what makes it so effective. Some of the topics we cover would be oneness in marriage, leaving parents, putting on a new relationship, purity, having hedges in your marriage, commitment, communication, which is always big. And like Ray said, this upcoming week, We usually meet as couples because we all learn from each other. But this week, the guys will go after dinner and have guy time, and the girls will come together and have girl time to discuss submission, respect, some of the things pertaining to the woman's role in marriage. And that's how we always wrap it up.
Yeah. And that's important because today's world has, convoluted and twisted the true roles of a man or a woman. I mean, I can't tell how many times I'll watch or even see a post of things on social media, and I just shake my head. I'm like, that's not masculine. I would never do that. That's that is so bizarre to me, that the ideology of that. Recently the Barbie movie's out right now. If I was a single dude, I wouldn't dress up in pink and go see the Barbie movie. It just seems very odd to me.
Yeah.
Now, maybe if I had a daughter and I was trying to do something, that I get. But yeah, but if your daughter asks you for her birthday, you break down.
Here's how you know you wouldn't. Well, come on, I don't want to speak.
But I would not dress in pink. I
was just gonna say, can you imagine if one of Jesus' friends that was a girl said, "Hey, I want to go see the Barbie movie." You think Jesus would dress up like Ken?
No. That's why I said I would go, but I wouldn't
continue to be himself and go see the movie.
Yeah,
but he would be himself at the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just find
I would hope so.
I found it very odd. I mean, but that just shows where our society has gone, where we've really, it seems like, have
our society is not a society anymore.
Well,
basically,
yeah. We're almost a dual society, so it's a very interesting thing. So,
well, one of the chapters in this book, we always get on the topic of parenting as well, because that's such a big part of couples' lives. But we have to say, selfishly, that Ray and I enjoy doing these studies every year for our own benefit, too. It keeps us accountable. It keeps us, at our age, still working in our marriage. And there have been times in the past where, let's say it's the night of a sweetheart study, and we've had an argument, and we have to work through it because we cannot be hypocrites teaching this study if we're not learning to communicate, to conflict biblically. And so it's been good for our marriage, too, to have that accountability.
You guys have conflict?
Oh, yes. We have similar interests, but we're different personalities. So absolutely.
I'm joking because I just can't. Well, you guys come, it's funny how everybody thinks you're perfect, but the truth is,
not.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, at some point, I would imagine, because of you guys getting into this, you had to be encouraged that you did have a good marriage by people. Is that true?
Well,
did you hear that from people? I mean, did people come to you, and is that why you thought, well, maybe we're equipped to do this?
And we would always try to point and give glory to God if they saw that. We would say it's God's grace. We're still very much in progress. We still work through things. So we would always, Ray has a really good quote that says, any good thing you see in me is what God has done, so he gets all the glory. And all the bad you still see in me is my sin, and I'm 100% responsible for that. So that's where we still are. But Ray always likes to say we're still working on our marriage, with God's grace and help.
Yeah, you never stop, right?
Right. And on the other side of that flip side, when I was hiking the Appalachian Trail, I met some guys and we were talking about what's going on and how we're moving, as we move toward eschatological end times, evil's ramping up. And I said, well, it's one of the clearest ways is you can have this discussion or debate, or you're seeing in our culture, a guy can say, well, I can be a woman, or a woman said, I can be a man. And I tell them, that's crazy. And a couple of guys hiking the trail, that's not right. That's hate speech. It's hate speech for me to say that a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man. Yes, that's not hate speech. That's sin. And so it's amazing how people are embracing this. And if you do say it, then confront that, they say that's hateful. It's like,
well, but I think the other thing is that's their quota. There's certain things that now they just go to, and that's why I said there's almost like a dual society. You got those that just know, the minute you hear racism, it's probably not racist. And the minute you hear, that's white nationalist, you think, okay, that's probably an American. There's certain things that they've perverted so much that you almost got this dual society that's going on, because you've got those that live in reality and you got those who are just, their minds have been so corrupted and so warped that they believe in whatever they're told and do. And so, but I agree. We know that times are going to continue to get weirder, stranger. That's nothing. As believers, my buddy likes to always point that out. Scott says it's just getting worse. So
It's not going to get better.
No.
You had mentioned Appalachian hiking.
Yeah.
Last time you were on, there were some crazy stories, I remember.
There are a lot of crazy stories, that's for sure.
There's a lot of strange people on those trails.
It's a 2,100 mile trail. You start in Springer Mountain, Georgia, and you end in Katahdin, Maine. And I met people from 15 different countries, and you had a chance to talk with them and what that was about and what they're doing. And the thing that was most interesting, Scott, was the chances that people would take and that would lead to their death. There was a guy from Finland, and he should never have done it. And we were up at the 6,000-foot mountain area up there, and you never want to go to the edge of the mountain to look around. And he did, and we're not sure if he passed over or did it slip off or whatever. And several of the ones went back down the trail and got his body and took him to the ambulance, but it was too late. So there would be people that, there was even a story. I mean, it's an example of when you're out there, you don't do something and disobey because you will pay your price. This lady didn't follow their trail like she should have been. And you, like I said, when you see, like in Maine in particular, it's 90% forested. If you get off the trail, she did, and it was months later they found her in their tent, and I guess she just gave up and wrote notes to her family and died in her tent, So it does remind you when you're hiking on this and whatever else, if you violate the rules, you will pay the cost for that. And some people were not carrying their water like they need to, and they got dehydrated, and they were kind of losing their. When you're dehydrated, your thinking gets flawed, and so some people were then helping them and trying to get them back out of there. But I think it was a great reminder that you violate the laws of nature for your life, then you will pay the price.
Missy, how did that affect you? I mean, obviously he's gone for a long period of time. You weren't on the trail except for a little bit with him. So how did that, over that period of time, how did that affect you?
Well, one thing that really helped is we decided before Ray did the trail that I would fly up at the halfway point to see him. So he had been hiking for 2 months. July 4th, I fly up to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and we spend a few days together around July 4th, and that really helped. But when it was time for me to leave and go home after that trip, it was really hard for Ray emotionally as I'm pulling away to go back to the airport. So he calls that night and says, I'm done with this trail. I've experienced it enough. I'm going to quit now and fly home. And at that point, I knew if he quit, he would always regret that. And physically, he's a beast. So I knew he could finish it, no problem. So I said, okay, hon, let's pray about it. Why don't you walk for 1 more week? Don't make a decision at the height of emotion, which none of us should ever do.
Right. And
he said, okay, I'll walk for 7 more days and see how I feel. And after a week, he said, yeah, I need to finish this trail. So I'm glad the Lord gave me that prompting to just encourage him to continue. I stayed busy with the grandkids. I had nice friends from church come help me mow my lawn. Josh is one of those. I stayed very busy. I was able to teach a high school summer girls' Bible study. And it went by pretty quickly for me, knowing I would see him at the halfway point. And then after that point, it was 8 more weeks, and he was home by mid-August. So,
well, part of it was mostly Missy, but boy, the total hike for me was 119 days, and you feel like you're going back in time. And what I mean by that is, you have to make sure that you stop your stream and get your water. You have to make sure that you stop somewhere and get your food. You can't get too much food. You have to walk everywhere you're walking, and you're thinking, it wasn't that long ago. That's life. I mean, maybe you had a horse or something, but otherwise, you didn't have that. So you really feel like you're going back in time, and it kind of weirds you out. I mean, so a lot of people were experiencing that as well. And there were a lot of people that wasn't just because of the difficulties of the trail, but they just a lot of them felt lonely. And you would be out sometimes hiking, and for 3, 4, 5, 6 days, you may not see anybody. You're just hiking on the trail, Well, some people left the trail because there was a park ranger at one point came through the trail and said, we're having trouble with a bear. We think some people had some food out. He got the food. And so we think he's now looking for people. And I only had one problem when I was from here to the wall there. A bear cub was coming down the trail. And they are cute, but I knew when they come down the trail, they're kind of like, kind of laughing everything else, but I knew, if the bear cubs here, mama's bear. So I backed up off and I raised my hiking poles and tried to look really big. And sure enough, off the trail to the left, I hear this, and she comes out and she sees her bear cub who'd gone now up the tree. And I was wondering, how am I going to get by this trail with that bear cub there? And since I was backing up, I think she looked at me, but I don't think she felt threatened. She looked up in the tree, saw her bear cub, and he comes down, and off they went. I went, whew, that was a close one,
Yeah.
But there were people that had any kind of experience with a moose or a bear or anything like, even just seeing one, that scared them, and they would get off the trail. So.
A lot of people have told Ray, and I agree, that he should write a book about his experience hiking the Appalachian Trail. It really turned out to be like a short-term missions trip, just sharing Christ. And what I think you discovered was so many people hike this trail looking for therapy or healing from a hard life, and they get to the end of the trail and they haven't found it. They've accomplished a great physical goal, but I think Ray really made it a point to share Christ and pray for people. A lot of hurting people thought hiking would take away the pain, and they ultimately need Christ for that.
And Missy remembers that. I told her the story. I was crossing the bridge or river. It was beautiful, and there was a young lady, probably in her 20s, Katie was her name, I think, and she was on the bridge, and I thought she was looking down the river and seeing it with the beautiful. But when I got there, she was crying, and I thought, maybe something happened. She hurt her leg or knee or something else, and I said, are you okay, or everything else? And I said, if I can help you, everything else. I said, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, and so you're safe. Don't worry. And then that's when she said that she was on the trail because her mom and dad divorced. Her dad moved to Hawaii and said, I never want to see you again. And her mom, she said, was often angry and was always often yelling at her. So here she was in her late 20s. Dad says, never want to see you again. Mom's always angry. And I told her, I said, well, when you get to one of the shelters and stuff, sometimes the Gideons will put Bible there. I said, go to the Gospel of John and you'll find that where it is. And you will have this hope, Katie, that Jesus loves you, despite what you're feeling from your family or what you're like, but you do have Jesus Christ who loves you. And she said she was going to get the Bible and see that, but she just felt abandoned. I mean, Dad says never see me, Mom's nuts, and so she was hiking the trail just to get away from it all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're always doing family ministry, even on a hike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that would work every time when I'd see people or everything else and whatever else, it usually went simple. I would see someone start talking, and can I pray for you? If they didn't want prayer, fine. I wasn't going to do that. But there were, and in that course of the prayer, you would find stuff like the other thing that was really powerful, these two sisters, and between the two of them, they had 8 husbands. So, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I mean, you couldn't be like, and two of them, both of them, their husbands, two of them have two, and two, both husbands died. And the other two were, the husbands divorced them. But I was like, wow, 4 husbands for each of them. And because of the pain associated with them, they're hiking the trail to try to get away from it. So you get a chance to, like I said, you could pray for people and stuff like that. So that was a rich opportunity, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to do that.
Did you have any, I mean, you were out there, it sounds like 4 months?
Yeah.
119 days, yeah.
Were there any pervasive thoughts that you, looking back, maybe you had more of one thought than any other thought? Just a constant? Are you understanding my question?
Yeah.
Was there a theme in your mind?
Because you have all that time to think.
Yeah, sure.
So quiet.
The theme on my mind, I tell you, there was a prevailing theme. That's Bear Scott, was here you are, like we shared with some of the guys, Psalm 119:1 says, the heavens declare the glory of God. I mean, you're out there and you see the heavens and the clouds, and And yet some people are like, I got to go up this hill again. How much longer I'm going to be on this trail? And what do you think I'm doing? This is not any fun. It's like, wow, here you are. You see all of God's beauty, and all you do is gripe and complain and moan. I mean, so it is with human heart, who's you're never happy by anything. But it just stunned me because, like I said, you go up the mountains, you look down there, you watch a sunset. To me, it was breathtaking. And I would stop and I would pray and say, thank you, Lord, for the beauty of the earth and for all your creations and all the things that I see. But the people that were not believers, they were just complaining and griping about everything. I felt like saying I didn't, but I wanted to say, why are you even hiking the trail if all you do is complain about hiking the trail? It doesn't make sense. But
I think you were able to enjoy each day and have a daily focus. And a lot of people, I think, just wanted to get to the finish line.
Right.
And that was their goal. They didn't care about enjoying the process.
Right.
And that's a good life lesson, too. How to live our life seeking first His kingdom for each day.
Right.
So I think you really enjoyed each day on the trail.
Well, and I'll give you another example of sore answer your question, Scott. So sometimes you'd be in the shelter and the shelters were by springs. So I'd set my tent up there, everything else. And the next morning, early in the morning, the birds, they're all talking everything else. And this guy in the tent is, shut up. It's like, come on. I mean,
this is their home.
This is their house, and they're singing their song. I loved it. And this guy is, shut up. It's like, see, there's an example I'm talking about. I mean, here is the beauty. Here's what's happening. Instead, just griping, complaining, and moaning about what's going on. And it's like, there you go.
I was going to just say the reason they go on a trail so they have something else to complain about.
Right. Yeah.
Something new and
A new thing to complain.
Yeah.
No.
So I have a question for you because obviously the Vallinghams meet him. How did that encourage you being away from him to be able to see that? I mean,
Yes.
That was the craziest story I've ever heard. They're on their way. For those who don't know the story and are listening, I'll let you. Well, why don't you tell it, Ray? So I don't take away your thunder here. Tell us the story.
It shows God's providence to allow this timing so perfectly for Ray on the trail.
Well, why it was so wonderful, and we had a lot of people praying in God's sovereign. But as I was coming on the trail, you had a platypus, and it would hold on to a gallon of water. But I was kind of running out of trail. I had I'm running out of water. I had 4 more miles to go, and I'm thinking, I hope I can get to that creek. Well, as I'm getting ready to cross this road, which a lot of times is really nice. They'd always have a sign there to remind people that they're passing the AT and everything else. So people would honk a lot of times. So as I cross this road, the car honks, and nothing unusual about that. And I just keep going. But their son, Ty goes, Ray! Like, wait a minute, how is it possible? Here I am in Virginia crossing this road, and I'm heading back out in the boonies, and that's where you are, and someone knew my name. So I stopped instead of just keeping on the trail and turned around, and guess who it was?
Yeah.
Chuck, Roshan, and Ty.
Chuck and Roshan, and was great. And I told them, I said, well, I have a problem here. I have 4 more miles to go, and I don't have a water because somewhere along the way, the backpack, the platypus, I must have punctured on a limb or something, and I don't have water. Well, we'll take you to the store, and we'll get you a new platypus, and you'll be all squared away and everything else. And I told them, it was answer to prayer. Now, how do you figure out? And they were saying the same thing. You would be at that point crossing the road at that time. They were trying to figure out where I was. I didn't even know they were even looking for me. And the fact that I stopped rather than just kept going, I mean, there's the sovereignty of God right there. And when you watch God's sovereignty at display, you're just like, oh, wonderful Lord that you have. There are no autonomous atoms. There's no maverick molecules. You work all things out and everything else. And they loved it either. And they came back to the church and they told people that we can't believe it, that we just happened to be at the right point, crossing the trail at that point, and there was Ray, And
and they were visiting they were visiting family, and that had to be that off-road. They said it was kind of an off-road, if I remember. So it wasn't.
And another thing I think that's so sweet about that story, not only seeing God's sovereignty, because if they had hit one more red light in town, it took Ray, 20 seconds to cross the road, it wouldn't have happened. But to me, it just reaffirmed my heart how the Lord is so intimately involved with every detail of our life. Mm-hmm. And He encourages us. Ray was lonely. He needed some Christian fellowship. It encouraged my heart to know, okay, he's safe in Pennsylvania or whatever state it was, Virginia. Ray is safe this week, and it was just such a sweet gift from the Lord. Is what it really was.
Well, Missy said something which I'm generally not around unbelievers a lot, but on the trail, there's a lot of unbelievers. And it was stunning to me that every time out there talking or everything else, it's the F word or Christ's name in vain or damning God. I mean, it was just, it's like, wow, don't you have another vocabulary other than that? I'm serious. I haven't been around. Something about the trail just made people just be just themselves. And I just couldn't believe it. Just like, wow, that's amazing that just those words were always there. So, so like I said, when you did meet some believers and it just really,
Out of the mouth speaks the heart.
Right.
Don't be surprised.
Right.
Yeah,
we shouldn't be.
yeah, you're right, Scott. I should have been ready for that, but I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And then, like I said before, the constant groaning, complaining, and, I got to go up this tree, so those birds are singing. You're just like, wow. You want to say, why are you even hiking the trail? I mean, I'll tell you another story real quick. So we're going up the mountain and everything else, and these people were complaining this is really hard, and it was steep and everything else. And so I said, well, if you looked about a quarter mile over that way, there's an escalator, and that escalator will take you right up the top of the 6,000 foot up there. Really? Where is it back there? And it's like, you got to be kidding me. We're out in the middle of the forest. You think somebody put an escalator there?
It's right past the sign that reads gullible.
Yeah. and I told them, no, that's not true. There wouldn't be an escalator there. It's in the middle of the forest, everything else. Well, that wasn't very nice. I thought it was a good joke, but they believed that there would be an escalator in the middle of the forest that would take them to the top of the 6,000 foot mountain.
Yeah, where the Easter Bunny and the leprechaun, greet them right there.
Like,
I would have laughed at that. That's awesome.
yeah, well, it got me in trouble, so I gotta be careful.
So you guys are doing a Sweetheart Bible study. I'm going to kind of bring it back to that. It was great talking about the appellation, but what would you guys recommend to young couples? Obviously, to jump into a Bible study and mentorship, it sounds like if you're newly married, from what I'm gathering, if you're newly married, it's very critical to just not leave it at the premarital counseling stage, but to continue that on for at least the first year, right? So,
right. When I went back to the Shepherd's Conference, I met with 61 pastors, and I reminded them, guys, please, when you're marrying people, don't just say, okay, you did your wedding, have a great honeymoon and everything else. No, you're just starting this race. And that, I use the example, which Missy knows, is foolish, is saying you're going to do a 26-mile hike and you get to the starting line and you go, yeah, baby. Dude, you got 26 miles to hike. And so it's unfortunate. And so many, again, we're talking about churches marrying these people and reminding them, now you have to start your work. And so they're a little bit, when we've been doing the study, they're a little bit shocked and surprised how difficult it is when you get married on things you have to work on. So it's kind of frustrating for us to see the churches not reminding people. I really wish if I could do it, I would say every church, if you're going to marry them, say, now we're going to meet with some other couples. We'll help you decide that. And you need to start working on your marriage relationship. Because if you're not doing that, if you're not killing sin, that sin will overcome you.
Yeah, and we encourage the couples when they finish. This is about a 9-month study, meeting once a month. We encourage them, when you finish, go find another couple that you can mentor, go through the study again, or do a small group. And a lot of the pastors who've gone on for the Master's Seminary are bringing this into their churches.
Right.
And it's just kind of multiplying. It's just so good to go through regularly. First year of marriage, mid-years, older years, we just always need refreshers in our marriages. So
absolutely. And in times away, like I always encourage people about every 3 to 5 years, they should go to a marriage conference too and fine tune over the weekend. That's maybe a little more intense, but really help you out on that. So,
Agree. One last thought I had, Josh and Scott, is when we started these marriage studies for our own benefit, probably my heart motive was, I want to have a good marriage so that we get along well and life is easy and smooth. But as we've done these years of studies, I'm realizing it's so much more than me and our happiness. It's about putting the glory of God on display in our marriages. Because if we want to be witnesses to people in our lives, our witness is not going to be any stronger than how strong our marriage is, since it's a picture of Christ loving his bride. So we saw our marriage the Lord can use to be a witness to our family members that maybe don't know the Lord, or friends or neighbors. So we saw a higher purpose than just getting along and communicating well. We saw it's a platform for the gospel, how people see your marriage. And so that's been our motivation now, I think, to keep at it.
And obviously, people see that. We've walked some trails before, and sometimes we might be holding hand or talking, and then we'll stop somewhere, and someone will say, well, are you guys just newlyweds? No, we've been married for 44 years. Well, you were just talking and having a good time and holding hands. Yes, she's my sweetheart. I love her. You're what? He said, yeah, she's my sweetheart. I love her. And that's because in our lives, Christ is on the throne. And Christ makes it very clear. He gives us clear guidance. How do we learn to love each other biblically, not the way in our secular humanistic world is? It's a violation of 1 Corinthians 13. The world violates that all the time. And so by being obedient to the word, dying to yourself, then you begin to really develop your relationship.
And when we do fail and sin, which is regularly, we learn to go more quickly to the cross for forgiveness and to each other for forgiveness. So we don't ever want people to think, oh, we have a perfect marriage. We have a perfect Savior who helps us to grow in our marriage to honor Him.
Yeah. And I always find that when that part is coming together and when that's being worked on, then the kids, because we started this, your passion was because of that child that walked into the office during a counseling session, but the children feel secure when mom and dad are secure, and that really cultivates a healthy atmosphere for young people to grow up in, for our kids to grow up in, and also, as you said, be modeled before them, so that way when it's their time to leave and cleave, as we talked the other day with good old Doug. We had Doug Hayward on here, and we were talking about the leaving and cleaving and how that can be difficult, but that becomes a natural transition for them because they see it modeled by their own mom and dad. So
Right. Yep.
yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap this up. Did you guys have anything that you want to add before we finish?
Well, his last chapter is kind of as a word that you can wrap on is be your husband's challenge, counselor, and crown. And then you could say a wife ought to be her husband's helper by being his challenger. And Hebrews 10:24 exhorts us to consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds. So I would wrap up to say, when your marriage is being the light and salt what it is because of the world we're living in, it will draw people to you. And then it gives you an opportunity to say, well, we're both wicked sinners, but we're saved by grace. And if you want to have a relationship and a marriage that will be what God calls it to be, we'll be glad to meet with you. And we've had couples do that. We're doing that right now. And this one couple, when we were working with them, we could already see that there was a tension here. But now we're already starting to see some changes already. So again, the Bible's very clear. Know the truth will set you free.
Absolutely.
So that's what we enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
Anything from you, Missy?
I would just say grow in your love for Christ. The more you continue to grow in your own walk with the Lord, you'll grow in your horizontal relationships, and especially marriage.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Well, I think that's a great place to land.
That was good. I would have spent more time on the Appalachian Trail.
I know. Well,
it's a good story.
Guess what?
We'll do that again another time.
Yeah, I was going to say that we don't want to have all the stuff. We got to have Ray back and Missy back.
Either.
You should try to do it in the winter, and then we'll have you come back.
That would be a challenge.
Well, you're saying that some of that, but when you got up north to Maine, that would be scary because, like I said, it was 90% forested. So you can imagine, and this is true of the trail, if you slip or you fall or something happens, you're in big trouble.
Do you have a distress beacon? Can you get one of those things?
He just had his phone, I think.
I have my phone, but even then, you didn't always have access.
Sure.
So even with the best of the phones and stuff on the trail, so
So you didn't have one of those high-tech machines for a couple $100 where it'll literally, well, not only that, but also usually for a couple $100, it'll also give you, make sure you're on the right path. So
yeah, and there were the three types of people that were hiking. There's the through hikers. They were going through Georgia to Maine. There's the section hikers. They'll do sections, get off, sections, go off. And then there are, the third one was through hikers, section hikers. I can't remember.
Just like doing a part of it for a day or something.
Yeah, they wouldn't even do the sections. They just wanted to do a little bit of that. And but the really thing was interesting, which I didn't know about, was, boy, there are so many people from all over the world that are hiking the Appalachian Trail. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I just met people from 15 different countries, but there was probably more than that. And I ended up hiking with this guy from Germany for a long time. And that was the other question. Sometimes people ask, well, how do you hike with your friends, whatever? Well, a lot of people can't get away for 119 days. They got work and they have things like that to do. And then sometimes some people would hike by themselves, but that's not so good. I just want to hike the reason is with that, also with your hike with a group, is because sometimes people have a certain speed, and some people on the trail, they're like turtles. I mean, do, 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 do. And then on the other hand, there are a lot of people that they were go, 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 and their whole goal was to get to the next point, instead of stopping and looking around. And I tried that one last thought. I tried that one time to see how much they're not paying attention, because on the trail, within eye distance, I'm going to say 100, maybe 150 feet, a plane had crashed, and I took a picture of it. It had crashed, and you could see the wings and some of the tail, and it had crashed. And later on, another few miles down the road was the shelter. So I got to the shelter. There was about 4 or 6 people there setting up their tents, and got up, and we started visiting. And I said, "Did you guys see that plane that had crashed up there?" What? There was a plane about 100 to 200 feet off the trail. It had crashed, and you could see the wings. Never saw it.
Wow.
Because all they're doing is go, 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 instead of looking around and enjoying all the beauty and all the things are there. It all did is it just confirmed what I thought. You have that group of people. That's it. It's just to get to the next point, instead of just enjoy it. Enjoy the people on the trail. Yeah.
Well, I like that.
Okay.
That's good. No, yeah. We'll take whatever you got. Yeah, it was good. So, well, with that said, we'll have to get you back and we can talk some more Appalachian Trail and more Sweetheart Bible studies and
Air Force stuff.
Yeah, we got lots that we can get over, and that's why we don't want to ruin it all in one big episode, because
Sure. Off we go into the wild blue yonder, flying high into the sky. Here we go. Bam. There. See?
I think you were secretly meant for the stage. I think
It's funny.
Well, I'm rather shy, so I don't know.
I could see you doing a one-man act up on stage.
there you go.
Yeah, you should know his mother. If you think Ray's crazy, if you had known his mother, you'd see why.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, hey, for those who have been listening, thank you for checking us out, and hopefully you were encouraged today, whether it be through testimony, through the fun that we had, but also through hearing about God's grace and how we're all, no matter if you've been married 44 years, whether you've been married almost 23 years, or how many yet, Scott?
14 or 15.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
A little bit.
Whether no, we're all working at the same thing, which is being a better mate every day, and that starts with humility with the Lord. Yes. So,
Amen.
That said, don't forget to
Like and subscribe.
Yep. Don't forget to share. Yeah. Comment.
All
yep.
the things.
You got it. Yeah, we appreciate that. And don't forget, if you want to help support, we have support tabs out there, so you can help out for as little as $3 a month. It really helps out. All that little stuff adds up. So a little bit here, a little bit there. And thank you. We hit 23,000 subscribers yesterday. So praise God.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, with that said, we'll see you next episode.
You're safe.